I'm happy now to announce our next speaker, who was already mentioned very often this morning. He is the founder and chief scientist of Giants Technologies in Beijing. He's also scientific director at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, DFKI, in Berlin, where he is currently coordinating China activities, and he's also honorary professor of our technical university here in Berlin. He has over 250 international publications under his belt. He has worked in AI for over 30 years. I will not list his numerous other awards and honors because that would significantly reduce his time, and he needs every minute of it. Please give it up for Hans Uszkoreit.
Good morning, and thank you for the nice introduction. Thank you for having me here today. At last year's Rise of AI, I talked about my impressions, my experience with AI in China after my first 3 years in China. And today, having been back to Europe for almost a year now, I want to talk about my impressions of Europe as seen through the eyes with somebody who has been in China for 3 years. Last year, I was discussing this picture from the book by Kai-Fu Lee, in which Kai-Fu Lee compares the strengths of the two giants in AI, the United States and China. I won't go through this here today, but actually the comparison came out very favorably for China, not surprisingly. And today I want to say, and back then already there was the question, where's Europe in this global race of the two giants? And the picture that came to my mind after reading Kai-Fu Lee's book was this. You may remember it from last year. There are two giants fighting, but where's Europe? According to Kai-Fu Lee, it should be down there. You see the green guy there? That should be maybe Europe. Europe is on the safe side, still making AI more secure and more good before really starting. So today I want to talk about the respective strengths of the global players in AI. I want to suggest a two-pronged, zweigleisige strategy for Europe and Germany. I want to talk about enterprise AI, a huge chance for Germany and Europe, the next wave of AI for which I think all bets are still very much open. And I want to address the question, why does Europe and Germany not have equal chances yet, I think? What are the handicaps, especially for human-centered AI? And I would finish with an outlook and answering the question, what should we do next? So this is a little more fine-grained than Kai-Fu Lee's findings, and it also includes Europe. And Europe, as Fabian already said, is not all that bad in all fields. Yes, it is true in AI for internet and AI for consumer electronics, Europe is not really leading and won't be leading in the next few years. Also in the financial sector, maybe not with automotive, we don't know. We see lots of future developments in China and the US, but we don't know yet whether Europe still has a chance. When it comes to public transport, yes, maybe we could become better, but also United States is not very strong there, as you know. But our two strongholds are manufacturing, Industry 4.0, and also growingly our chances would be in enterprise AI. And this is what I want to talk about next, about enterprise AI. So one of the two prongs is to exploit our excellent chances in business AI, smart manufacturing, but today, since I've given many talks on Industry 4.0 already, today I want to talk about this newer emerging field of enterprise AI. So as you know, many people talk about digital transformation, intelligent transformation. What does it really mean? So the digital transformation comes in two big waves. The first wave is the digitization of data, data processing, resource planning, and so on. And the second wave of digitization is the one that brings in intelligence, the sophisticated things, Industry 4.0, digital twin, robots, AI applications, and the goal, according to companies like SAP, but many other players, is the vision that is already very old, it comes from 1992, of the intelligent enterprise. So the intelligent transformation, the second wave of digital transformation, leads, hopefully, to the intelligent enterprise. There is now a complex definition of intelligent enterprise, but you don't really have to read it here. Actually, I will abbreviate it in simpler words. It is a complex organisms consisting of people, technology, resources of knowledge, of learned experience, also machine-learned experience, and intelligent processes that together show signs of intelligence, of collective intelligence, that go beyond the intelligence of the individual players. So I will highlight some of these ingredients in the following slides. The first ingredient is, of course, data. I do not need to say much about that. So a prerequisite for applying AI and analytics, deeper intelligence, is the availability, the fusion, the interoperability of the data in the whole enterprise. Clear. The second one is knowledge. This is the old dream of knowledge management, but now on a different level. The management of the knowledge resources that are on paper, hopefully then digitized, that are partially already machine usable in structures such as digital process models, I'll come back to that, and in many other forms. But let's not talk about that. That's knowledge management. This is the important part that will make the difference. The third part is the processes. So business processes come in two flavors. There are the operational processes, the support processes, and the management processes. And parts of the management processes are the strategic planning, the controlling, the coordination on the top. They overlap, of course, all of these, yeah? And on the core operational processes in a production company, it's production, assembly, quality assurance, these things. And then there are support functions, support processes like human resources, marketing, purchasing, and so on. So we all know that. And now the thing is, what can we do with them then in the next step in the intelligent enterprise? So we need to adapt existing processes to this higher form of digital transformation, adapt them. I will come back and say how. We need to design new processes that use the data and knowledge resources that were not there before. Yeah, either adapt the old or define new ones. And we have to create, and this is the core part, digital process models. People are already starting that, but it's yet not really connected with knowledge resources like the corporate knowledge graphs, and it is not connected yet with machine learning. People are trying it already, for instance, in robotic process automation, and trying to watch people, watch processes, and then model these processes and improvement. And then we need facilities for monitoring, measuring, and optimizing the processes with the help of AI. And finally, it comes to the automation of individual steps in the processes and of sub-processes. But now the question is, can AI also automate entire processes? Yes, in general, yes, there are some processes that can be modeled, not modeled, automated entirely in the business world. But be careful now, and this is really the essence then of understanding the limits and the challenges of enterprise AI. There are some processes on the higher level of decision making that AI, even if people tell you the contrary, cannot be automated by AI. So what does it mean? That means that even if you have the best machine learning systems and let the best managers let these AI systems watch the best managers and get all the data of their decision. They cannot predict or make the decision of today and tomorrow. Why? Because we live in a constantly changing environment. The world is very dynamic. Regulations, the market situations are different today than they were last year. And the system and also the combinatorics of all the external data, the macroeconomic data, the market, the ever-changing market, they are so complex, it's impossible. So one of the challenges of AI is now to amplify human intelligence and to make sure that the decision-making that still exists is better decision-making by having much better input, by having much better decision possibilities for decision-making and so on. And also because of language technology and visualization to bridge the barrier between the machine and the decision makers that are there. So this is a real challenge for AI. So the main application areas for AI and the enterprise are the following. One is the interpretation of unstructured data, for instance, for quality management, but also for partially written business documents, transform them into a digital machine-usable way. Learning from unstructured data for prediction, demand forecasts, and analytics optimization. Then the detection of anomalies, predictions of events, and then two very, very big areas. One is business process modeling and management. I already mentioned that. And I would predict that as we have big language models today, like GPT-3, or the BERT-based models, we will have process models of huge models of processes that are trained and that are able to learn the processes and learn from the syntax and the semantics of processes. And then the last one is the human-machine interaction that I just mentioned. That is absolutely necessary, the seamless integration of human and machine intelligence. Now there is one challenge, of course, and we see this already in the enterprise. Why wasn't the enterprise before Internet AI and electronics AI and perception AI? The reason is very simple. The hurdle is very high. So the ambition, the demands are very high. Because in industry, in unexplainable learning can only solve individual tasks. This is narrow AI. Yeah? You can apply AI either for demand forecast or for maybe quality assurance, for any of these things, maybe for speech output, for something. But every bigger thing, like a task-driven chatbot that talks to the customers or to the partners, needs knowledge. It cannot only be based on a model on data. So there's ever-changing knowledge. So the best systems of that type now, in addition to having machine learning, they are already using knowledge sources. And they combine maybe speech and language understanding and language generation, several things. This is going from narrow AI to broader AI. Also in business process modeling, going from written specification of processes and transform those to business models. Yeah, this requires quite a number of components and also support for decision processes. I'll come back to that. So it is the main big thing, which will be the next revolution of AI that many people know. It's almost everybody in AI feels this is necessary, but most of the best people are already working on it, is how can we combine now the implicit knowledge learning of deep learning, how can we combine that with explicit knowledge, which can also be learned, of course, but it's a different way, it's discrete learning. Yeah, so how can these things, how can the huge amounts of knowledge that we have in our knowledge graphs, like the Google knowledge graph, the Baidu knowledge graph, with billions of facts, also Wikidata, how can they be combined with the experience learning? So this is the big challenge now, and this is absolutely needed for success in the enterprise world. It will come, because only that will enable bringing the AI in the higher floors of the enterprise. So the next thing I will briefly mention is the combination of internal and external data. Data exploitation usually starts with internal data, but external are becoming more important. So for instance, in SAP, people are talking about X and O data. X are mainly customer experience data, and then the AI brings those together for analytics. But it's much more than customer experience. It is your customers, your suppliers, your partners, your competitors, your employees or prospective employees, your products, relevant technologies, regulations, and so. A big company already now has to follow all of these, and since many companies are globally operating, you have to do it all over the world in many languages. And that you cannot do without AI, especially without language understanding, because most of these news are in language, few of them are in structured form. So actually this is, the external data are full of untapped potential, and I don't know if you know that the 16 intelligence services of the United States mainly use open data. 95% of their stuff does not come from spies taking secret pictures, but it comes actually from open data. So what we need then is something that brings now the data from all over the world together with these internal data. Right now it is still separate, so marketing gets their data, sales, customer, supplier, supply chain monitoring, and so on, competitor monitoring. But of course, in the next phase, that needs to be combined too and be able to be fused with internal data. So that's a big thing. So we are doing this in Giants. We are doing powerful web crawling with our partner company Ubermetrics. Then we extract information, and then we give it to the customer, and we integrate it already in knowledge graphs. So if we get knowledge, then we get them into knowledge graphs. Knowledge graphs of that form. So we, the Chinese didn't show me, okay, it doesn't matter. So we extract some messages, yeah, we extract some events and news, and then we put them in knowledge graphs, and we do that with many, many topics. Financial, so about 70, no, now around 80 different types of events we can detect already. We use them for supplier monitoring, competitor watch, portfolio monitoring, compliance watch, customer watch, and so on. Many applications. And it combines, now, let's come to the second prong now. European basic research has always been on the forefront of AI. And European research is well equipped for the next phase, for hybrid AI. And European researchers and funding bodies have already embraced human-centered computing. Wonderful topic, human-centered computing. AI for education, healthcare, personal assistance, and all these things. Why can't we do it? I am extremely pessimistic. Instead of building fantastic AI applications for our citizens, European AI is asked to start with rules, constraints, standards. Even the praised white paper, it's good that we have a white paper, as was pointed out, for instance, by Rasmund Rothe, 20 pages, and most of it is actually regulation and constraining, and only a few pages, maybe 4 pages, are about doing something. We block most kinds of human-centered AI collection, and we have to overcome our worst weakness. Our worst weaknesses are that in this innovation process, you can see it here. I won't have the time to explain it in detail. So applied research, then the startups, commercialization, then the scaling phase, right? Self-explanatory. Our problem is here, here, and here. And it has been, and it still is. So it has not changed yet. It is the last mile of research, the one that DARPA is doing and others. Long breath, shared criteria, competitive, last mile until things are usable. And then, as Fabian already said, the venture capital in the very beginning, risk-taking, also risk-taking in big companies. So if we see the DARPA success stories, DARPA, you know, right? is the ARPANET, the internet, the mouse, the global positioning system, conversational AI, Siri, Google Translate, all of these things. Many of these things were started in Europe. The base foundations were laid in Europe, but here the last mile was not done. People went to the United States. Many of these things were developed by Europeans in America with American money and then commercialized in America. So then our problem is Angst, the German Angst, the fear of digital data, fear of algorithms. And it's, coming back from China, you cannot realize it. You are here all the time. It's much deeper and much more complex than you were thinking of. The fear of AI. AI is too good. It will steal our jobs. No, AI is not, it's too bad. It's not good enough to make critical decisions. It has biases. It makes the wrong things. And AI is evil. It will soon turn against us. So, but data is the raw material for knowledge creation, the fuel of science, the key to understanding the world. For data are not harmful for health or environment, and data are good, nothing bad about them. But Germany is the country of overflowing letterboxes. In China, in the 3 years, I got 2 letters in my mailbox. Here, it overflows after 1 week. Lots of paper that I have to deal with. We have cash-only restaurants. We have public administrations without email addresses, schools without IT infrastructure, no data interoperability, mass pixelated buildings on street view because every citizen can erase the facade, every tenant of the house facade. And we have the most feared data protection officers. Take as an example our Corona app. This is a picture of mine. Voluntary. This is a good thing. Every politician says it's great that this is voluntary. 25% penetration. 57% of infected users share the positive results. A little more than 10% of positive tests are shared via the app. And you get every day these things, 10 encounters with low risk. Nobody knows what to do with it. What do you do with it? Useless, absolutely useless. It's not the fault of Telecom or SAP, it's the fault of our society, of our politicians, to come up with something totally useless. University of Oxford researchers estimated it takes at least 60% penetration, and then it will really help quite a bit. If you get close to 100%, all this fear that the Gesundheitsämter may break down and cannot track or trace anymore would go away. It would simply go away. So it's political decisions. It should be voluntary, decentralized, because decentralized, then only Google and Apple get it, but not the German Gesundheitsämter. Wonderful, should be decentralized, should be voluntary, and no other data should be collected, although they are badly needed for understanding the pandemics, and no other uses are allowed, although they are badly needed. So this is terrible. We have this privacy data austerity. So we just heard yesterday from our chancellor that the right to life integrity of the person has to be ranked higher than the right of freedom of movement or the right of assembly. Clear, we have to stay at home because we want to save lives. There's only one thing that gets ranked even higher. This is data privacy and data austerity. That is ranked higher because no, the app should not be made like it is in China, mandatory, and in China it really helps people quite a lot and people like to use it, they feel safer with it. So the solution is simple. Have a highly secured centralized data storage, call it Gaia X or whatever you like. And it can be a public trust concern, independent of government, just like a Supreme Court or a central bank. Have strict legislation governing data utilization with harsh penalty for abuse, and finally focus on protecting people from abuse of their data instead of protecting data. Data protection in the old sense is outdated. So there are lots of systems that we trust, existing systems. We trust the air traffic control system. It really helps. We trust central banks and other large banks. We give our money there. We are not scared. We trust the armies, some European countries with, some without nuclear weapons. We trust them that they don't do this. Yeah, we trust intelligence agencies, but we wouldn't trust a simple controlled database. It's ridiculous. So now the question, how dangerous is AI? Two opinions here. One comes from Christoph von der Malzburg, a German AI researcher from deep learning. The threat posed by artificial intelligence is worse than the atomic bomb. This is wonderful. Thank you, colleague von der Malzburg. Our politicians and the public will love it. They will be even more scared of AI. Andrew Ng, on the other hand, well-known Silicon Valley and China AI person, he says worrying about AI turning evil is a little bit like worrying about overpopulation of Mars. Why does he say that? Because we are still far, far away from understanding self-consciousness and modeling general AI with intentions, desires, and free will. In order to be evil, you need the free will. Yeah, you need, in order to be develop your own evil. Our AI is much too dumb to become evil today. But we should remain cautious in deploying AI for critical tasks. We should be very cautious, and we should continue to work on transparent, reliable, and accountable AI. But it's these people doing it, they are already sabotaged by this fear that is there, and people are not taking serious. Yeah, so this is a decision, Zukunft or noch mehr Bedenkzeit. Yeah? The situation is severe. The attitude of our opinion leaders towards AI puts our countries in jeopardy. There's actionism, committees, white papers, regulations, another commission, another utterance, another promised funding. But politics cannot overcome anti-technophobia. There is no impactful funding. You could see now in the corona times, yeah, or when we had the refugee situation, it is easy to spend huge amounts of money if they are needed. Our society is able to be decisive, yeah, how much money is spent. But did you see the money even promised on AI was never really spent and allocated fully. Yeah? So in that cases, why are they so hesitant? They are not bad people. They are all governed by this German fear. So this, the Knoten muss platzen, the knot must burst. It's not a Gordian knot that can be eliminated by a sword. It's a paralyzing collective deadlock caused by a spreading psychosocial disorder. We have to be patient with the people who have it, because there are some friends, there are some people who I went to school with. They are scared, yeah, they are scared and technophobe. We should be patient with them, but we shouldn't be patient with the situation. And maybe humanities and social sciences that should be Orientierungswissenschaften, that should give us orientation, maybe they need orientation themselves, because these people are totally disoriented in today's world. Yeah, they are not there yet, and they give orientation to politics. It's the wrong way. So the Knoten muss platzen. Conclusion and outlook. Europe is still behind in many areas of AI, but we have huge opportunities, especially in industrial AI and enterprise AI. And we have excellent chances in the next AI revolution, going from narrow to broader AI by bringing together huge knowledge, explicit knowledge, and machine learning, especially for human-centered applications for which this is needed. But Europe, and especially Germany, has a big handicap, a fear-driven hesitation, and a quest for being better, having better AI in the ethical sense before we ever have good AI. We want to be better before becoming good. And if we can overcome the German angst and European arrogance, telling the whole rest of the world what is good and ethical, we have the power to make our continent even better, our wonderful continent. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Hans Uszkoreit. We have very few minutes left, but there is a question by Daniel again. Thank you, Daniel, for your question. Can we think of an intelligent enterprise from the perspective of a company becoming a subject itself instead of being comprised of many subjects? Companies today already seem to be an organism,
yes,
compared to like an organism of people and logarithms, or maybe algorithms, I think he means. They just need to understand themselves.
Yes.
Do you think that's true?
Yes, like with any complex social system that makes decisions and has information processing, we need to understand it. It is more tighter than, let's say, the market of an economy. That's also a complex system, yeah? And we need to understand it through AI. But in this case, there is still much more centralized decision-making, but already today, 90% of the decisions, or even more, are not made by the CEO anymore, but they are collective. And it's true. The integration of these intelligent processes will make it an own subject.
Right, very interesting. Carsten has a question. While innovations are agile lightweights, broad data-rich topics are given high weight by AI systems. AI is therefore a quite conservative consultant. So how do we innovate AI?
Sorry, again?
All right,
what's the
all right.
question?
I thought you would understand it right away.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understand. While innovations are lightweights, broad and data-rich topics are given high weight by AI systems. So I think like broad topics, a lot of data is like preferred by AI, or maybe AI lends itself to analyze topics where there is a lot of data.
Of course.
And Carsten means that therefore AI is a quite conservative consultant. Only going for where there's a lot of knowledge, maybe not being inventive enough, right?
That is very much related to the prediction fusion of knowledge.
So how could we innovate this?
Yeah, because there is now, you have realized, right, that big self-trained models develop lots of implicit knowledge from general knowledge, and then they are trained by very few examples, one-shot, few-shot learning.
Right.
But sometimes this is not enough. Sometimes you have to infuse the knowledge as explicit knowledge into the system. You can do that already today, actually. You can teach the system and give it definitions and so. And this is exactly the thing. Yeah, this is exactly the thing, because we need we have many applications for which we don't have these huge amounts of data, but they are also crucial and very important. And we have to infuse combine general implicit knowledge with very explicit, with very condensed few data, but also with explicit knowledge.